Welcome to PropTech Pulse, the podcast that takes the pulse of prop technology in multifamily. I'm your host, Shelly Robinson, and each week we'll be diving deep into innovations, challenges, and the future of work in property technology and multifamily. From AI-driven property management to blockchain and real estate, we're here to explore how technology is reshaping the way we live, work, and invest in multifamily communities. Whether you're a property manager, a tech entrepreneur, an executive, or even simply curious about the future of living spaces, PropTech Pulse is your weekly dose of insights and inspiration. So let's sync our rhythms and get on with the show. It's time to take the pulse. Welcome to PropTech Pulse. Today I have Chlump with me from PlaceMake. Chlump, welcome to the podcast.
Thanks for having me.
I know you and I have been trying to talk together for more than a minute, it feels like, and I'm so glad you're able to join the conversation today. I'm really looking forward to getting to know you more and having the audience learn more about what you're really building and working on. So to kick us off, kind of tell our viewers, what is your origin story? What inspired you to enter this real estate and prop tech platform market and create PlaceMake?
Well, I should start by saying that I'm actually not a real estate person. I'm actually a mathematician by training and sensibility, and approach real estate from the outside with the perspective and methods of a mathematician. As an undergraduate at Northwestern, I studied economics, specializing in game theory and auction theory, and developed models that it turns out can be used to design optimal real estate auctions, which are often suboptimally designed. I then founded an economic consulting firm and served as a strategic advisor to Abbott Labs, the pharma company, developing novel models to pick winning drug markets. For my master's at NYU, I studied philosophy, specializing in mathematical logic and welfare economics, and pioneered novel models in resource allocation and invented a new mathematical framework to model multi-agent reasoning. The goal of my PhD in mathematics at LSE was to revolutionize the field of game theory. I pioneered a novel solution concept for non-cooperative games that generalizes and extends standard theory while resolving a number of long-standing paradoxes. My supervisor loved it. My examiners thanked me for the experience. They told me to publish in the top journals and asked what I was going to teach. I said, actually, I'm building a company right now, an AI company. Toward the end of the PhD, I discovered that real estate is about 40 years behind finance and has so far failed to leverage AI, machine learning, and data science to make investment decisions. Jim Simons, you may have heard of him, was a celebrated mathematician who pioneered mathematical models and algorithms and founded the legendary quant hedge fund Renaissance Technologies. Okay. As a mathematician myself, I realized that there is an enormous untapped opportunity to do the same in real estate and founded placemake.io. We've been described as an AI Bloomberg for real estate or a Google for real estate that provides the foundational infrastructure, data, and models to drive investment decision-making, deal qualification, strategic market and asset selection, DD and underwriting, risk management, and market analysis. And our models are now trusted by leading global investors, brokerage and advisory firms, institutions, insurers, private equity firms, and the like.
Wow. So I always talk about like the pain that a company is solving, and that kind of feeds into your origin story and your why and that amazing mathematical mind you have in the background. So what problems, what why are you digging into and solving? What is the larger opportunity?
I always think about the application of AI in terms of specific use cases, concrete use cases. And AI use cases lie on a spectrum between low-level operational efficiency plays, for example, lease abstraction, financial modeling, information retrieval, and so on, to high-level strategic initiatives, such as developing new investment strategies or identifying mispricing or hidden opportunities. Interestingly, many of the operational efficiency plays are solutions to problems that the industry has created for itself and should really be solved at source. Consider, for example, document parsing. The absurd inefficiency of this industry means that we convert data into a document only to convert the document back into data. The true solution to this sort of problem is to extract the data from the the true solution to the problem of extracting data from documents is not to build a document parser, but to ensure that valuable data are properly collected made machine readable, and managed in a database from the outset. So think data and not documents. The challenge, though, is that the technical foundations are often lacking. We ourselves focus on the high-level strategic initiatives, as these are the use cases that will fundamentally change how real estate is assessed and valued and generate outsized long-term value. Consider, for example, traditional investment decision-making, the whole process. There are two primary challenges. First, it is very slow, it's manual, it's inefficient, and often involves aggregating data, fixing errors, building models, and tweaking assumptions. Second, it may be suboptimal in the sense that it may fail to pick the optimal market or asset, generate alpha, or mitigate risk. And there are several reasons for these challenges. One, the critical market and asset data are sparse, they're opaque, inaccurate, stale, disconnected, poorly structured, and difficult to leverage effectively. Another is that data sets and systems are fragmented, siloed, and difficult to integrate into a coherent and analytical framework, limiting their use. Invaluable proprietary internal data remain unexploited, leaving massive commercial potential untapped. And the lack of deep technical expertise in-house makes it difficult to pioneer impactful innovations and solutions. The real opportunity is to make better investment decisions more quickly and efficiently by proactively predicting market and asset potential, optimal assets and markets to target, the optimal time to transact, the optimal asset value, future market liquidity, and so on. So imagine what a quant hedge fund might do in this space.
That is really well said. And what comes to mind are analysts and investment management who are stuck in spreadsheets and disparate data, and the amount of manual time they take their education and their training, and then it's spent in these really tactical environments of trying to put that information together. So I would imagine that's going to create some efficiencies and impact. So what has the impact been?
So we could classify the success of our technologies more broadly into two classes, so operational and commercial. On the operational side, we can talk about the validation and backtesting. So, for example, these models that we've built, we've validated and backtested, and they show significant investment advantage. I can actually go through some of the more technical details and commercial impacts there. Our models are also now being integrated into the internal systems, the investment and underwriting processes, and standardized IC report research templates. And the scores themselves that are coming out of these models are used to target markets and assets, underwrite investments, qualify transactions, manage risk, and provide LPs with context during reporting and fundraising. On the commercial side, there are a lot of indications of success. One is enhanced transaction activity, deal flow, improved deal metrics, returns, outcomes, and traction. There's increased client and LP interest and inbound demand especially for our clients. There's also a first mover advantage that our clients are seeing and an elevated market position as a result of these models. Again, I can go into detail into some of these models and how we built them. Some of these models have helped also with prospecting, creating much more effective and efficient prospecting pipelines. These models are also trusted for use in investor communications, so consider fundraising or investor reporting. Some of our proprietary indices are now being tracked by end clients, so some of the companies that our clients have, and also the public sphere, so for example, government, looking to navigate uncertainty in these times. Our models have led also to the development of new fund strategies. So for example, being able to quantify and qualify office to resi conversion. Some of our clients have also seen increased publicity and recognition as pioneers in this space as a result of these types of models. Also endorsement and advocacy from executive leaders and partnerships with regional and national media.
That's awesome. And so from a place of uniqueness and differentiation, what would you say makes you really stand apart in this? I can already think of about 10 of them, but I don't want to speak for you.
Well, so actually, maybe it's good if I'll start with this and go into some of the models themselves.
Yeah.
So there are three main aspects. So first, we leverage three different types of data: public data, third-party data, and proprietary client data. So second, as noted, we've developed a number of unique proprietary models. For example, gentrification and liquidity models, trained on historical and current data and institutional knowledge. And notably, as a client now provides us with proprietary internal data for model training, the resulting models yield proprietary intelligence and a competitive advantage for the client. This in particular is why we have clients willing to share their proprietary data with us. Proprietary data are often thought of as a competitive advantage, but this is a mistake. The real value lies not in the data, but in the exploitation of the data, particularly in cleverly designed models. And this is our unique specialty. Relatedly, and most importantly, we are characterized by credibility and the trust that our clients place in us. We have a unique dual expertise in both real estate and AI, machine learning, and data science that enables us to develop validated models and non-traditional insights based on years of R&D and decades of academic and professional experience. So for example, our team includes scientists and engineers with PhDs in chemical engineering, AI, computer vision, mathematics, from leading institutions such as MIT, LSE, Brunel. We have patents, professorships, professional prizes and publications, and also expertise in algorithmic trading and AI systems at various hedge funds, JP Morgan, Credit Suisse, ING, Samsung, Vodeno, Stellantis, and similar organizations. And our backers include a tech VC, family office of the Mittal family, the largest real estate tech VC in Europe, a member of the family behind the Santander banking group, the former CEO of BNP Paribas Real Estate UK, former Uber executives, and other industry executives.
It's a good crowd and a good group, and I really love what you're working on. It makes me ask the question, what is the greater ambition of Placemake.io, and kind of where do you see it heading, even like the industry as a whole, this investment management industry as a whole?
So our models are general purpose technologies and can be applied also to financial services. Consider, for example, mortgage and loan valuation, underwriting, and securities, such as derivatives based on our underlying indices, lending, insurance and pensions, retail, advertising, logistics and transportation, development and building design, research advisory and client support, occupational strategy, infrastructure, energy, telecoms, governments and urban design, security and defense. But there's one glaring inefficiency in this industry. Everyone across the industry is constantly rebuilding the same tools over and over again.
Yes.
Consider all of the platforms that aggregate data from, say, the Federal Reserve, the US Census, and other sources, or calculate market metrics, for example, rental growth, construct time series, identify comps, or visualize statistics on a map. There's no reason for everyone to rebuild foundational infrastructure individually. Our ambition is to serve as the underlying foundational infrastructure on which other applications can be built. And more generally, we'll see how all of these, the development and rise of AI will change how real estate is done. So for example, we'll see repetitive structured work change. A lot of that will be automated. Think about report generation or presentation generation, contract negotiation, and the like. Competitive advantage will come from models and not manual processes and information living in the minds of people. We could take a look at equities as an example. Some estimates suggest that algo trading now makes up about 70 to 80% of total volume. And in Forex, that number can be over 90%. So imagine a world in which real estate investment is done algorithmically. The best deal makers will be the ones who have the best models, the models that identify hidden opportunities, key drivers, and winning strategies. If you like, I can go into detail into some of these models and how we've built them.
Yes, please. I find it fascinating, so please do share.
So we aggregate all key data from real estate to demographics and economics into a single source of truth and provide models that characterize and predict market dynamics and asset potential. Our PlaceRank platform quantifies the performance, risk, and potential of a place and enables the scoring and ranking of places based on user-defined weights. So imagine credit scoring for locations with the ability to tailor the weighting to the proprietary investment strategy and risk profile. We do the same at the asset level and score and rank assets based on key features and relative importance. And at the foundation of all of this are our proprietary models. We've developed, for example, market models that characterize and predict gentrification, capital appreciation, rental growth, liquidity, investor sentiment, and other market dynamics. And these market models can identify winning and up-and-coming markets that generate significant excess returns. For example, we have several models that can identify gentrification based on pricing instability and value cliffs, or relative underpricing. We've pioneered a non-traditional index that we call a regularity index, which characterizes pricing instability and is a leading indicator of gentrification. This index can be used to identify highly dynamic markets in transition and out of equilibrium, with random pricing patterns due to market participants pricing in different future expectations into current values. Investors, especially value-add and opportunistic investors, are leveraging this particular index to identify the structural shift from stable to dynamic and enter a market before it hits the transition phase to do some large-scale regen and investment and influence the trajectory of the market. We've pioneered another non-traditional index that we call a disparity index, which characterizes the gap between the market value and those of the neighbors. This index reveals value cliffs and relative underpricing that precipitates appreciation and growth.
Wow.
So think of the relatively high-priced areas in a market as high-pressure zones and the relatively underpriced areas as low-pressure zones. Over time, the values will equalize, and the values in the lower-priced markets will go up much more quickly as people get priced out of the more expensive areas and move next door. Now, this process is known as endogenous gentrification, and this model captures that process. Another example, we reverse engineered a very well-known liquidity index and pioneered our own version that's even more powerful, which we call a capital availability index, which captures the density of capital going into a market and the diversity of capital sources. This index characterizes market liquidity or investor demand and can be used to quantify liquidity growth. Investors, again, especially value-add and opportunistic ones, may benefit from lower entry liquidity, which opens up a contrarian position and reveals opportunities, often with superior pricing that other investors are missing, and benefit also from higher exit liquidity, which makes it easier to exit a position. Now, importantly, by leveraging the gentrification models and other models, it's possible to predict capital appreciation and rental growth. I'll give an example. We studied the Austin market, and these models were able to identify up-and-coming Austin markets with future capital appreciation and liquidity growth well in advance. For example, the dynamic markets of East Austin grew by over 300%, much more than any other market. By contrast, over the same period, the established markets grew by 200% or so, and the median growth rate was only 177%. So these models can deliver a huge delta. And for an even more sophisticated model, we can layer in projected population and migration dynamics, demographic segmentations, such as the number of renters by income band, labor market dynamics, demand-supply imbalances, such as the gap between housing pressure and incoming supply, amenities availability, walkability, which research shows translates into a price premium of 41% for multifamily. Yeah. Also resilience, as characterized by, for example, pricing dynamics in insurance markets. In parallel, we have pioneered a number of asset models that characterize and predict for any given asset the likelihood and timing of a certain type of event, say a liquidity or distress event, with a hit rate significantly higher than the baseline with no model. These asset models can identify when such an event might occur, enabling the prioritization of assets to target. And in addition, we've designed these models to be explainable and interpretable and automatically identify the key drivers and quantify the individual contributions of each factor. So for example, an asset model might predict for any given asset a liquidity event within the next 15 months based on the owner type, how long the asset has been held, market liquidity, cap rate change, population change, and so on. And we've developed all sorts of models, for example, gradient boosting machines, Cox proportional hazard survival models, and so on, and engage in rigorous calibration, validation, and backtesting over multiple periods and in multiple scenarios. To be concrete, when it comes to picking assets correctly, our asset models yield a 6x increase in the hit rate, translating into about 3 billion in additional potential value in just one market and just one sector. Multiply that across all of the major US markets and sectors, and the result is an astronomical potential.
That is amazing, and my mind is exploding right now because I think of how reactive investment management has had to be, and all of the experts you tend to bring into conversations when you start to consider a deal, right? Or you can start to consider what the trajectory of the company is going to be and what markets they even want to focus on. So this is really moving to a very proactive look, and several ways to look at it, several models to look at it. So my question to you is, where do you think this is heading, and which companies, like from an ideal client standpoint, which ones are actually really embracing this, and what is the difference that you see happening with the ones that don't in the next 3 to 5 years? I think that's going to look very different. What do you think?
Yeah, there's going to be an ever widening gap. The ones who do understand where the value is created and adopt these technologies sooner rather than later will benefit. They'll have a head start, and the others will struggle to catch up. There are a few investment managers and brokerages and advisory firms that are taking on board these types of technologies, and they're very forward thinking. They're very innovative, and they actually have proper data and AI strategies in place. They're thinking long term. They're cautious. They're not necessarily jumping on the bandwagon and trying to adopt whatever flashy new toy is on the market.
Yeah.
They actually have a long-term strategy. They're thinking about what creates the most value.
That's well said. And then that leads me to another question. Some of our viewers may be considering starting to look at these types of opportunities, but haven't dipped their toes in it yet. You mentioned AI and data strategy, so I think about really clean data as a strategy. What are the other considerations that they should look at first? And then what do you say to them to kind of start exploring with your firm if maybe they're uneasy about AI or uneasy? I always call AI the current mystery meat in investment management and asset management and property management. People want a lot of clarity around it. So I know that's a loaded question. It's a big one, but kind of what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it might help to give some historical background first. So Andrew Egg is a very well-known AI scientist and pioneer. He's launched several companies. He remarked a number of years ago that AI is the new electricity. And by this, he means that AI is revolutionary, it's transformative, and foundational. Just as electricity changed everything, so will AI. And the analogy is quite apt. So it's instructive to look at the economic history, and in particular, the advent of electricity as a commodity, and why productivity gains took decades to emerge, and what the implications might be for the operationalization of AI today. And there was so if we take a look at some of the economic impacts of innovation, we'll find that it's actually quite hard to quantify. One helpful measure is total factor productivity. And if we go back in time and look at the advent of electricity, we found that factories were driven for a long time by steam engines. By the late 1800s, commercially usable light bulbs had been invented, power stations had been built, electricity was available as a commodity. And the advantages of electricity and electric motors were obvious, especially to us now. So for example, an electric motor could be used in place of a steam engine and slot into existing systems, but could do much more. A small electric motor was far more efficient than a steam engine. Power could be transmitted through wires instead of a drive shaft. The factories could be much cleaner, safer, more efficient. A lot of the infrastructure could be simplified. You could have much more minimal infrastructure and operations. But by 1900, less than 5% of mechanical drive power was derived from electric motors in American factories. And up until 1910, factory owners were still opting for steam engines or steam systems over electrical systems. The question is why? But one obvious reason is that these factory owners were reluctant to scrap existing capital. They'd already invested quite a bit in their their technologies and were tied to them. They were suffering from the sunk cost fallacy. But the more important reason is that the entire architecture and operational processes had to be changed to take advantage of the potential of electricity. And the factory owners at the time struggled to understand the implications of the new technology and imagine its potential. But once the potential was understood, productivity soared. That was why the productivity gains took years or decades to materialize. And that leads us into how we think about AI today. Now, just as factories had to reorganize around electricity to leverage, companies have to reorganize around AI today. And that can be summarized as adopting an AI-first approach. In practical terms, that means developing corporate strategies with a view to implementing and leveraging AI, investing in AI and viewing it as an industry-wide utility, building AI-focused foundations. You mentioned the technical foundations, that is key, organizational leaders and teams, developing a robust data strategy, curating and preparing proprietary internal data sets to be consumable by AI. So for example, no more static PDFs and Excel files, integrating AI into everyday workflows, delegating tasks to AI, building AI feedback loops, exploring how a problem could be enhanced or solved by AI, experimenting with AI, cultivating the skills internally to understand, build, and exploit AI, and partnering with AI experts. And all this comes down to having a strategic vision, as we were just discussing. A lot of these companies don't have this high-level strategic vision. They're experimenting with point solutions without developing a much greater overarching unified strategy or understanding the greater purpose of the implementations. And the point solutions may be useful for what they address, but unless they're unified into a much broader initiative, their impact will be circumscribed. So a more effective approach is to begin with the key objectives and work out the right questions. As a common error is to begin with the solution first and to try to apply it to every problem. Everyone right now is focusing on LLMs without first asking whether an LLM is actually the right tool for the problem. It might be the wrong tool, it might be the wrong interface, and it might actually make the problem worse. So the question is, how can you address this challenge properly? The key is to focus very early on the concrete ideas during the ideation phase. And a concrete idea is one that can be validated or rejected very quickly and efficiently, saving time and resources. That yields a clear execution strategy and has gone through the design thinking process and passed muster. It's better to have an idea that's concrete and falsifiable than a good idea that's really vague and untestable.
Okay.
And of course, you mentioned earlier data and data foundations. There's no AI without data. We need to have robust data, whether you're talking about predictive models or LLMs that are trained on huge corpuses. It's tempting to collect as much data as possible, but it would be a mistake to accumulate data without understanding whether the data will be useful. Data hoarding is costly in terms of acquisition costs, support maintenance costs, runtime costs, management costs, and legal costs. Yeah. It's also wasteful, it's inefficient, and it's a commercial distraction and a major security risk. So hand in hand with developing an AI strategy is developing a robust data strategy. And this means mapping out solid data foundations, building the necessary technical and commercial infrastructure to support a data strategy, mapping out the data requirements, and developing proper data structures, models, and schemas to ensure that the right data are collected and with the right structures, properties, and frequencies, of scale, and so on. Establishing a know your data policy that resolves a number of questions. For example, where do these data points come from? Who has touched the data? What types of access or manipulations are permitted? Are there markers of data manipulation? Are the data biased? How sparse are the data? Are the data statistically reliable? We have to understand also data provenance and establish trust structures. We have to look at the whole data supply chain. We have to understand and engage in proper data lifecycle management. And this involves classifying incoming or changed data to differentiate between good data and junk data, quantifying the commercial value of all data within the company, defining the short-term, medium-term, and long-term use, storage, and archival policies, deleting useless data, relying on trusted sources. So this is how you develop a data and an AI strategy from the ground up.
Are you finding like key positions aren't being paid and hired in investment management that would address that? Or are you finding like to me, maybe there's a hole in like the right people to help with that strategy in the industry. Are you finding that starting to be an investment in those type of roles in investment management firms, or still a hole?
It's starting to happen. Some of these companies are being reorganized and restructured in the sense that we were just discussing. Some people are being put into these positions. You have CBRE has a chief knowledge officer, but there are now chief AI officers at a lot of these companies. You have chief information officers, chief technology officers, and so on. These roles are becoming much more prominent, which is good. Yeah. We need much more focus or emphasis on these types of roles, but also much more cross-functional teams. And we have to emphasize AI literacy, data literacy, and upskilling.
Agreed.
These all require significant investment.
They do. No, they do. And sorry for interrupting you. One last question before we wrap up. Any bold predictions for real estate and technology in the next 3 to 5 years that you see coming down the pike?
What sort of predictions?
I'm totally open. Completely open. It's an open statement. I always think our viewers leaving it open kind of gives way to what the future will hold, coming around the bend. Is anything going to be really disruptive from your standpoint in the next 3 to 5 years?
Well, so AI will probably take hold, perhaps not in ways that we are expecting. So it'll ultimately come down to how AI changes how we live and work, and how these structural shifts affect how we use, interact with, and value places and spaces. Data centers right now are booming, but at some point they might become, the market may become oversaturated. Generally, infrastructure, water, and energy will become increasingly critical. So these are areas you might want to focus on. In terms of more societal or economic shifts, we might see, well, assuming a more optimistic democratization of power, we may have more freedom to live and work and travel wherever we want and use a space only if it fulfills a need. So that might change the distribution of spaces and the growth of different markets.
I really like that idea and think about all of the business opportunities that will create for that type of living and working environment. I know my daughter's wants to be a nomad, and so I think that is on the minds of several people of a different generation than me, and I think it's pretty cool to think about, and look forward to watching it unfold. Really enjoyed the conversation together, Chlump. Where can people find you?
Our website is placemake.io.
Wonderful. And really appreciate the time today, and look forward to seeing the feedback from the episode when it launches. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me again.
Absolutely.
And that wraps up another episode of PropTech Pulse. I hope this conversation has given you valuable insights and perhaps even sparked some ideas for your own PropTech journey. Remember, the future of multifamily is being written right now with every technological advance and innovative solution. So stay curious, stay connected, and keep your finger on the pulse of PropTech. If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to PropTech Pulse on your favorite podcast platform and share this along with your colleagues. You can also find us on social media for bite-sized insights and updates. I'm Shelley Robinson, and until next time, let's keep innovating, disrupting, and keep pushing the boundaries of what's possible in PropTech and multifamily. Let's build it together.